It's January 24th, 1989. The sky above Rayford Prison in Florida is the color of ash. Inside a narrow cell sits a man once called handsome, brilliant, even promising. Now he waits, feet shackled, wrists trembling, breath slow and deliberate. Outside, hundreds chant in the rain. They hold handmade signs that read, "Burn, Bundy, burn." Theodore Robert Bundy, age 42, is minutes from execution. The same mind that once outsmarted detectives and lawyers now calculates how many breaths remain. A priest whispers the Lord's Prayer. A guard checks his watch. Somewhere, a switch will soon be pulled, and with that single surge of electricity, an era of terror ends. But who was Ted Bundy really? How did the boy from Burlington, Vermont, become one of America's most notorious killers? To understand that, we must go back to the beginning. Ted Robert Cowell was born on November 24th, 1946, at the Elizabeth Lund Home for Unwed Mothers in Vermont. His mother, Louise Cowell, was 22, unmarried, and frightened of stigma. To protect her reputation, her parents raised Ted as their own child and told him Louise was his sister. Years later, Bundy would say he felt confused, betrayed. Psychologists believe that early deception fractured his sense of self. At age 4, Ted and his mother moved west to Tacoma, Washington. She married John Bundy, a hospital cook who tried to bring order to the household. Ted took his stepfather's last name, but never accepted his authority. Neighbors described Ted as polite yet distant. He stole knives from kitchen drawers and arranged them around his sleeping relatives. A teenage cousin would recall waking up to find young Ted staring silently from the doorway. No one understood then. The seeds of manipulation were already taking root. In high school, Bundy was quiet, clever, socially awkward. He obsessed over control. Teachers noted his fascination with crime stories and detective novels. Classmates said Ted watched people the way others read books, searching for weaknesses. He earned good grades, joined local Boy Scouts, even helped neighbors with chores. On the surface, he was an all-American boy, yet at night he peered into windows, stealing undergarments and trinkets, tokens of voyeuristic thrill. That duality, gentle smile by day, dark curiosity by night, would define the man he became. By 1965, Bundy entered the University of Puget Sound, later transferring to the University of Washington to study psychology. Ironically, he excelled. Professors saw a bright student destined for law school. During these years, he met Stephanie Brooks, an elegant California woman whose rejection shattered him. When she ended their relationship, friends say Bundy spiraled. He dropped out, drifted, and reinvented himself, vowing never to be powerless again. By the early 1970s, Bundy had rebuilt his image. He volunteered at political campaigns, wrote speeches for a Washington state governor's re-election effort, and even joined a Seattle crisis hotline center. Co-workers, among them future true crime author Ann Rule, remembered him as empathetic, calm, and reliable. He talked distraught callers out of suicide by day and prowled dark streets by night. Rule later wrote, "I liked Ted. He was kind. I couldn't imagine he'd ever hurt anyone." Bundy's charm was his weapon. It opened every door he needed. January 1974. Seattle shivers beneath gray skies. Inside a small house near the University District, 21-year-old Linda Ann Healy vanishes. There are no signs of forced entry, only blood on her pillow and her missing clothes. Weeks later, another woman, Donna Manson, disappears from Evergreen State College. Police, puzzled, note eerie similarities. Young women with long brown hair parted down the middle, abducted near campuses. Witnesses mention a handsome man named Ted, sometimes with an arm in a sling, asking for help loading his sailboat. That summer, Lake Sammamish State Park becomes the turning point. In broad daylight, two women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, disappear within hours of each other. 5 witnesses describe the same man, charming, polite, driving a tan Volkswagen Beetle. For the first time, police have a name: Ted. What no one yet realizes is that this will become one of the most intense multi-state manhunts in American history. July 14, 1974. Lake Sammamish State Park teems with nearly 40,000 visitors enjoying the summer sun. Amid the crowd, several young women are approached by a tall, clean-cut man wearing a white tennis outfit and an arm sling. "Hi, my name's Ted," he says softly. "Could you help me load my sailboat?" Two women vanish before sunset, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund. When detectives begin interviewing witnesses, they're stunned by how clear the description is: handsome, confident, polite. They sketch his face, list his first name, and even note his car, a Volkswagen Beetle. Bundy's mask of normalcy is beginning to crack, but not yet enough to stop him. By the fall of 1974, bodies begin to surface in the mountains east of Seattle. Remains of missing women discovered near Taylor Mountain and Issaquah. The pattern is undeniable. Yet Bundy has already left Washington, enrolling at law school in Utah. New disappearances follow him south. In Utah, Nancy Wilcox, Melissa Smith, and Laura Amy vanish within weeks of each other. Investigators from different states fail to connect the dots. In the 1970s, interstate databases didn't exist. Each department works in isolation while Bundy keeps moving. Utah, Colorado, Idaho, collecting victims like shadows. August 16th, 1975. Sergeant Bob Haywood of the Utah Highway Patrol spots a tan Volkswagen creeping through a residential area at 3 a.m. Inside are a ski mask, a crowbar, handcuffs, and trash bags. Bundy smiles politely. "Just heading home, officer." He's arrested on suspicion of burglary. Detectives soon match his car and description to recent abductions. A victim who survived, Carol DeRonch, identifies Bundy as the man who pretended to be a police officer and tried to handcuff her. Suddenly, Ted is no longer a phantom. He's real, alive, and in custody. In 1976, Bundy stands trial in Utah for the DeRonch kidnapping. The courtroom buzzes with reporters. Cameras capture the well-dressed law student defending his own innocence. Bundy projects confidence. He quotes legal codes, questions witnesses, smiles for photographers. But the jury isn't convinced. He's convicted and sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. Yet even behind bars, Ted Bundy plots his next move. Transferred to Colorado to face new murder charges, Bundy becomes his own lawyer, giving him access to the law library without guards. During one session, he opens a second-story window, waits for the hallway to clear, and jumps. He limps away into the forest, surviving on stolen food until police recapture him 6 days later. Bundy jokes to reporters, "It was easy." Everyone laughs, until he does it again. December 30th, 1977. Bundy's jail cell in Aspen is quiet during the night shift. Guards notice nothing unusual, until morning when they find an empty bunk and a hole in the ceiling. He's gone. Bundy had sawed through the light fixture, crawled into the crawl space, and walked out the jailer's apartment front door. For the next 7 weeks, Ted Bundy is a ghost. Stealing cars, shaving his beard, crossing state lines undetected. The manhunt spans the country, but Bundy always seems one step ahead. January 15th, 1978, 3 a.m., Tallahassee, Florida. Inside the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University, 30 women sleep. Bundy enters through an unlocked back door. In less than 15 minutes, 2 are dead, Margaret Bowman and Lisa Levy, and 2 others are severely injured. He slips away unnoticed, blending into the night. Later that morning, police find a bloody print on the doorframe and a bite mark on one victim's body, evidence that will later become pivotal. 3 weeks later, 12-year-old Kimberly Leach disappears from her middle school in Lake City, Florida. Witnesses see a man leading her to a white van. The town erupts in panic. Roadblocks spring up, but Bundy is already miles away, driving stolen cars, sleeping in motels, and shoplifting for food. February 15th, 1978. Pensacola police officer David Lee spots a suspicious car without tags. He pulls it over. The driver fights, reaching for a weapon. After a struggle, Lee handcuffs the man and asks for his name. The suspect smiles faintly and says, "I wish you'd killed me." Fingerprints reveal the truth. Theodore Robert Bundy, America's most wanted man, is back in custody. Florida prosecutors waste no time. Evidence piles up, fibers from the sorority house, bite mark casts, eyewitness IDs, and the stolen van linked to Kimberly Leach. Forensics. Odontologists compare Bundy's teeth to the impressions found on Lisa Levy's body. Every ridge matches. It became one of the first major U.S. cases to use bite mark evidence successfully. Investigators coordinate with FBI Behavioral Science Unit agents, including Bill Hagmaier, who interviews Bundy extensively, laying groundwork for future serial killer profiling. If you're finding this investigation fascinating, hit like and subscribe. It helps documentaries like this reach more people and keeps true crime storytelling respectful and educational. The year is 1979. Bundy's trial for the Chi Omega murders becomes the first U.S. murder trial ever broadcast live on national television. The once elusive killer now stands center stage, wearing a crisp suit and his trademark smile. Acting as his own attorney, he flirts with reporters, addresses the judge as "Your Honor" with polished eloquence, and occasionally leans toward the cameras as if performing for them. Prosecutors present the Volkswagen evidence, eyewitness accounts, and, most critically, the bite mark analysis. When forensic odontologist Dr. Richard Souviron testifies that the impressions on victim Lisa Levy's body match Bundy's teeth in every conceivable detail, a hush falls over the courtroom. Bundy's smile fades. The jury deliberates for less than 7 hours. Verdict: guilty of murder in the first degree. Judge Edward Cowart looks down at him and says, "Take care of yourself, young man. I have no animus toward you. I want you to know that." It's an extraordinary moment of civility between justice and evil. Bundy replies softly, "Thank you." The court sentences him to death by electrocution. Months later, Bundy is tried again, this time for the murder of 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. The evidence is overwhelming: fibers, eyewitnesses, and the stolen van. Once more, Bundy insists on defending himself. Mid-trial, in a move that stuns the nation, he proposes marriage to his girlfriend Carol Ann Boone right there in court, exploiting a Florida legal loophole that recognizes verbal declarations as binding. She accepts. The courtroom gasps. Bundy is convicted again and receives a second death sentence. At Florida State Prison, Bundy spends the next 9 years filing appeals, writing letters, and speaking with journalists. He reads theology, psychology, and criminal law, alternating between denial and confession. FBI agent Bill Hagmaier visits repeatedly, documenting Bundy's shifting stories and using their conversations to refine the FBI's behavioral analysis program. Through these interviews, investigators learn patterns that will later help catch killers like Gary Ridgway and Dennis Rader. As the clock runs out on his final appeal in January 1989, Bundy begins to confess. Over 2 days, he admits to more than 30 murders across Washington, Oregon, Utah, Colorado, Idaho, and Florida, though he hints at many more. His motive, he claims, stems from an addiction to power and control, worsened by years of consuming violent pornography. Investigators see through the partial honesty. Bundy still manipulates even as he comes clean. Families of the victims listen through tears and disbelief, finally hearing the words they both longed for and dreaded. January 24th, 1989. The same gray morning we began with. Outside Rayford Prison, crowds chant and wave homemade signs. Vendors sell coffee and Bundy burgers. Inside, Ted Bundy is led from his cell to the electric chair, nicknamed Old Sparky. Witnesses recall his final words: "Jim and Fred, give my love to my family and friends." At 7:16 a.m., the switch is thrown. 2 minutes later, a doctor pronounces him dead. Outside, cheers erupt. For many, justice has finally come. For others, nothing can erase the loss. Bundy's execution closes one of America's darkest chapters, but his shadow lingers in law enforcement. The case transforms the way police coordinate across states, inspiring the creation of centralized databases for missing persons and violent offenders. Forensic odontology, psychological profiling, and interagency cooperation all accelerate because of Ted Bundy. Yet experts warn, his outward normalcy is what made him most dangerous. FBI profiler John Douglas would later write, "Bundy forced us to understand that monsters look like ordinary people." Behind every headline was a life. Linda Ann Healy, Janice Ott, Denise Naslund, Donna Manson, Jorgan Hawkins, Melissa Smith, Laura Amy, Nancy Wilcox, Margaret Bowman, Lisa Levy, Kimberly Leach, and many others whose names remain unconfirmed. They were daughters, sisters, friends, students. They are the reason this story must be told with respect. If you believe their memories should never fade, subscribe, like, and share this documentary. Awareness saves lives. Education prevents tragedy. Ted Bundy once said, "We serial killers are your sons, your husbands, we are everywhere." He meant it as a warning, and he was right. Evil rarely looks monstrous. It smiles, holds the door, volunteers at the hotline, and tells you what you want to hear. Understanding Bundy is not glorifying him. It's recognizing the signs of manipulation and the importance of vigilance. The story ends where it began. One man, one chair, and the echo of countless lost voices reminding us, beware of the masks people wear. This is TrueScope Documentaries. Thank you for watching.